I want you guys to listen carefully, because the possibility of James Harden being traded has just become possible. As of right now, James Harden is a part of one of the best teams in the NBA, the Brooklyn Nets. But from what it seems, it just looks like the Brooklyn Nets just can't catch a break. To simply give you some specifics, at the beginning of this year, they started off the season without Kyrie Irving, one of their big three superstars, and of course now with Kyrie Irving slowly coming back, we were expecting them to be at full power. Despite Kyrie Irving coming back, he's still not going to be available for home games. So of course that situation is not even dealt with yet. But now we got more news that Kevin Durant, the superstar on the team, the best player, is going to be missing some time with an injury. And with the Brooklyn Nets right now just adding more negative perspectives and storylines to the team, we just got some news that James Harden could potentially be leaving, could potentially be traded. This is the NBA rumor. James Harden could leave the Brooklyn Nets this summer. From what many reporters and analysts are saying, the Brooklyn Nets right now are in scary hours. But I want you guys to understand this. Because of this report, anything has now become possible for James Harden. From what it sounds like, next year there's a big possibility he won't be on the Brooklyn Nets anymore. And even, let's dream a little bit here, during this year's NBA trade deadline, James Harden could be on the move. So for this video, we're going to be talking about James Harden, talking about this report and going into depth about it, about a potential trade that of course would shake the NBA. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a very special episode of Easy Buckets. My name is Soom and I make basketball videos every single day. So if you're new here, be sure to hit the subscribe button, turn on post notifications to not miss any of my upcoming videos. If you watched this video and you loved it, be sure to smash that thumbs up button. I greatly appreciate it. It would help with the channel a lot. But without wasting any more time, let's talk about James Harden. So far this season, James Harden is once again putting up MVP numbers for the Brooklyn Nets. Right now, he's averaging about 22.7 points per game, 8.0 rebounds, 10.0 assists, 1.4 steals, and nearly 1 block a game. And right now, when talking about his role, he is the main floor general and playmaker of the Nets, and is currently helping them to the 3rd or 2nd seed in the Eastern Conference, game after game, if they win or lose. Ever since being traded from the Houston Rockets last season, everybody thought the Brooklyn Nets would be a primetime NBA championship team. But of course, the thing that they're dealing with right now is just being healthy and having their stars be available. And when talking about Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Kevin Durant, it seems to me that James Harden is the only player that's always available, and maybe he's fed up, which is why we're getting this report. The report we got was by Marc Stein, and it focuses on the net star of James Harden open to relocating this summer. When talking about this offseason, James Harden has a $45 million player option, and of course with that being said, James Harden could be on the move. The exact report was this: James Harden is reportedly open to relocation this summer, according to NBA longtime insider Marc Stein, after the Brooklyn Nets superstar turned down a lucrative extension in October. During this past October, the Brooklyn Nets ended up offering James Harden a 5-year contract extension, which he actually denied. But he didn't say he denied it because he's not going to stay. He denied it because he believes his value in this upcoming offseason is going to be higher than before. And if I'm going to be honest, he's smart. He's going to play a good season and of course raise his stock. James Harden even says this: "I don't plan on leaving this organization and the situation that we have. So my focus honestly is just on the season and then winning the championship. The contract and all that stuff will bear itself out, but my focus is going to be locked on this season." James Harden said this quote in October, but I'm telling you, that was literally 3 months ago. His mindset could change by now, especially with the circumstances. And the biggest circumstance right now is talking about Kevin Durant. We just got a Kevin Durant injury update. The Nets star sprains MCL in left knee. Optimism, he returns in 4 to 6 weeks per report. This is what we're hearing so far, that we're hopeful. The Nets are hopeful KD could come back in 4 to 6 weeks. It has not been confirmed. Adrian Woj was the one that confirmed this, and this was the exact medical update. The Brooklyn Nets on January 16th. Following an MRI this morning, Kevin Durant was diagnosed with a sprained medical collateral of the left knee. The injury occurred during the second quarter of Saturday's game versus the New Orleans Pelicans. Durant is expected to return in full strength following a period of rehabilitation. Updates regarding his return will be provided as appropriate. Because the report says they're optimistic he'll return in 4 to 6 weeks, it has still not yet been confirmed, and you never know. During this recovery time, Kevin Durant could miss more time than that. Which goes back to James Harden. I believe 100%. If the Nets don't win the championship this year, and of course, James Harden is dealing with Kyrie Irving's off-court antics and Kevin Durant's injury-prone career, there are many other teams that would accept James Harden and of course elevate his championship opportunity, as right now he has 0 championships. Going back to Kevin Durant, a fun fact to note is throughout his past couple of seasons, he has been super injury prone. And even though Kevin Durant is recognized as one of the best players in the league right now, if you're not healthy and available for your team, then of course that status, it doesn't really matter. In the 2019 and 2020 season, after signing with the Brooklyn Nets, Kevin Durant did not play the entire season after recovering from an Achilles injury. And then when talking about last season, out of 72 games, Kevin Durant only played a total of 35 games, of course before the playoffs. With that being said, it seems to be a pattern that Kevin Durant just simply keeps getting hurt, and maybe long-term for James Harden, he doesn't see it being worth it, even though right now they're recognized as one of the best teams. So now the question is, what team do I believe would be a perfect trading partner for the Brooklyn Nets? And I got a team in mind that you guys are going to love. For this video, I want to have fun, okay? I want us to dream. I want us to expect the unexpected and talk about the possibility of how the Los Angeles Lakers can get James Harden. James Harden joining LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Imagine that. The Lakers have always been wanting a superstar point guard, and I believe James Harden would elevate Russell Westbrook and Dennis Schroeder to a whole nother level. To keep it straightforward, the NBA trade deadline is coming up, and as we're hearing these rumors about Russell Westbrook being traded and James Harden now potentially relocating this summer, Rob Pelinka and the Lakers are not going to take this report lightly, and I'm sure they're going to call the Brooklyn Nets to see if there's a possibility that a deal could get done. On the Brooklyn Nets perspective, the reason why they should try to trade James Harden if this report is true is simply because in this upcoming offseason, they don't want to lose James Harden for nothing and trade him during this year's NBA trade deadline to kind of have an insurance policy that this offseason, they still have a good roster while Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are on the roster next season. On the Lakers' perspective, right now they're struggling and not living up to expectation, and a blockbuster trade has to happen to kind of rejuvenate their season and of course help them go all the way for the NBA championship. And there's no better guard out there than James Harden that will elevate LeBron James and Anthony Davis' roster. If a Lakers and a Brooklyn Nets trade were to happen, this would be the ideal scenario of a trade that would go down, or a conversation starter. It would be the Lakers offering up Russell Westbrook, Talen Horton-Tucker, Malik Monk, and a 2027 first-round pick in exchange for James Harden, Javon Carter, and Bruce Brown. What do you guys think about this deal? With Russell Westbrook and James Harden, both MVPs and having very similar contracts, of course the salary matches here. But when talking about the other role players, I do believe Talen Horton-Tucker and Malik Monk is an immediate upgrade over Bruce Brown and Javon Carter. On the Brooklyn Nets perspective, this trade would make a lot of sense, as because if they get Russell Westbrook in return, I do believe he's going to do whatever he can to stay with Kevin Durant in the offseason. And of course, on the contrary, we have young players of THT and Malik Monk to develop. And of course, with THT still being on contract for 2 more NBA seasons, the Brooklyn Nets don't lose anybody, especially with them having the possibility of a risk of losing James Harden. The best player in this deal is simply James Harden, and that's why the Lakers have to offer up a first-round pick, at least one of them. But I wouldn't be surprised if an actual conversation started, the Brooklyn Nets would demand more draft picks. On the Lakers' perspective, their mentality for this deal is simply a win-now mode. With James Harden joining the Lakers, I believe his playing style will fit the Lakers perfectly, because even though he's a great floor general and can control the rock and wants the ball in his hands, he's also a great three-point shooter in general, which separates him from Russell Westbrook and of course will elevate the roster's three-point shooting. Another important thing to note is that throughout James Harden's career, he has been very vocal before on saying he wants to play with a dominant big man, and this is where Anthony Davis comes in. With James Harden entering this summer with the player option and the possibility of him opting out, he could re-sign an extension with the Lakers and of course build in the same timeline with Anthony Davis to be the big 2 in LA, and then of course play with LeBron James while he's still on the roster and in the league. I believe when fully healthy, James Harden, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis are better than Kyrie Irving, Harden, and Kevin Durant. And if James Harden himself sees a future with him in LA, a trade's gotta go down this season. Of course, I do want to be honest with everybody. I don't see the Brooklyn Nets valuing Russell Westbrook as high as James Harden. Let's be real, Harden is better than Russell Westbrook by a lot, because Westbrook has kind of gotten worse over the past couple of seasons. But don't get me wrong, Russell Westbrook still has a lot of value in the NBA. And hopefully in this deal, the Brooklyn Nets see the value of Malik Monk to simply get this deal done, and then on the Lakers' perspective, they go full throttle for the NBA championship. The trade scenario I just proposed would be a blockbuster deal that would shake the NBA. So yes guys, this wraps up my video for today, talking about the possibility of how the Los Angeles Lakers could get James Harden. What's most important to me is I want to know your thoughts. Do you believe this is a dream come true? Will this ever happen? Would the Lakers ever trade for James Harden? And will James Harden ever leave the Brooklyn Nets? Put your thoughts down in the comments below. But other than that, take it easy, God bless, and I'll see you all next time on Easy Buckets. Woo!